in, but we were
I was, yeah, I was myself too, and I was trying to get off that. So really, I only start now.
Really misbehaving today. Okay, are you seeing my screen now?
What I see is MHVI monthly staffing update RedCap entry.
Okay. Okay, about now.
It looks, yes.
Okay,
it says RedCap.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes. Yeah.
For some reason, the presenter ball had passed to Lynn. If that happens again, please let us know, and we'll troubleshoot. Okay.
Am I off now? You guys aren't looking at me or anything, are you?
No, not Lynn. You're off the hot seat. All right. Welcome, RedCap. I'm so glad we can all see it, and so this will be excellent. You can see what I'm talking through here. We are just past the login screen at this point, but the login screen is a pretty standard screen. Now that we're here, you can see the My Profile link in this upper right-hand corner. And you can see the Training Resources tab. It does have a brief training video about entering information into RedCap, if you're curious about that. It's not required to watch it. The place that you will head to every time you open RedCap to enter information will be the My Projects tab. Into the My Projects tab, it lists any project that your login has access to. In this instance, we actually have 2 projects ongoing at the moment, so you see them both listed here. However, when you log in, you will just see this lone project, the MHVI LA Staff Data Collection Project. And then you'll head in to enter data. So it's up to this dashboard, which actually is not relevant to your data entry experience. So I will just simply point out what we see here, and that's that there's a couple tabs across the top that include the project home, project up, and other functionality. They are not relevant to entering data. But you'll find yourselves in is this menu here on the left side of the menu board. This left menu includes a couple of options, including My Projects and the Home, as well as the 2 links here for data collection, and that's where we will focus our time today. The for data collection are Record Status Dashboard and Add Edit Records. You'll also see some other applications a little bit lower where there are some really cool features that you're welcome to explore. You can reach out to us if you have questions about them, but they're not anything that we're going to be discussing today. We're going to look at editing and editing data. So then I'm going to start with the Add Edit Records, which is the very first place you will start. When you come into the screen, you can see there are options to choose an existing staff, either a new staff, or a known staff ID. And you also conduct a data search to find a staff if you don't know the ID. We're going to talk about entering a new staff ID. Now, the staff ID is actually a pretty important element that you get to designate yourself. Staff ID could be an ID that's already pre-existing in a data system you have. It'll accept any combination of letters and numbers. So it could just be a random ID if you choose to create that. It'll also be a staff name. This field is excluded from download if a download is privacy sensitive. So anything you'd like in here. Today I'm going to enter demo and create a new staff called demo. And when you hit enter, it's going to establish that staff. It's going to open up what Red calls the event grid. The event grid here shows us the 2 forms that I mentioned. You can see those on the left. The new hire form, update and change of status form. And what is a grid with a whole bunch of little circles, and each circle represents a form. You can see the new hire form row, there's a new hire column, and there's one little button there. So that's the place you'll start by by clicking that button to open up a new hire form. And we'll do now. It opens up a new form. You can see the form and all of the response boxes going down. We ask that you enter today's date, which is the date that you initially begin this data entry process. We know that this could take a couple of days. You might return to the forms at different times. There's no need to update this date every time. It's an administrative date field. And click on the handle Today button to the right of it, and it will help you enter in today's date. Fields and enter the specified information, first name, last name, a start date. You'll notice on the left that there's this little red text, and it says, must provide value. It means that at some point in time, before the 5th business day of the month, this field is one that is required to be able to complete the analysis for IPR and for the HRSA reporting. So there are fields that we will look to see completed. Included in here is the start date. That's the date that they actually began working in your offices. The model training completion date, which is the date that they completed the model training.
We have a question in the chat box about model completion date for HFA. The date that we're asking for is the official HFA training date. Do know that within those first 6 months, you can provide some stopgap training, but what we're asking for is that official HFA date, and you can enter in the anticipated date of that.
Okay. So next thing that we're going to start entering into is the FTE and the allocation breakdown. What is first asked for is the total FTE for this individual in the EHS HFA home visiting program. So full-time staff equals 1 FTE, and half-time would be 0.5. And so this is their total staff FTE across all roles. Then what I'd like to do is to, RedCap will start breaking down the roles and the FTE. Next question asks for the roles the staff was hired for, and you're able to check more than one box. Check that box. RedCap will help open up the dated questions. So I've clicked on the home visitor. Now, RedCap has opened up the questions that begin asking for the total FTE in the role of home visitor, and subsequently the FTE in the role of home visitor that is funded by MCV, and the FTE in the role of home visitor that is funded by MHVI sources, FTE in the role of home visitor funded by other non-MCV, non-MHVI sources. Ultimately, what we see here, these 3 sub-questions about funding, FTE that's entered into these questions will sum up to equal the same FTE that is entered here as the total FTE for the role of home visitor. A staff who's working in multiple roles, it's possible to select the other roles as well, so I will select supervisor. And CAP is going to open up those additional questions. So in this case, we see that we're asking for the total FTE in the role of home visitor and funding breakdown, all total FTE in the role of supervisor, and the breakdown for that role in particular. So what we will see is if we were to add the total FTE for the role of supervisor and that entered for the role of home visitor, we would the staff total FTE in the agency. So just asking for it, that same staff total FTE, but broken down by the roles and then further broken down by the funding source. Additionally, there's a note field here for you. And here you can enter in any types of notes, comments. This is for your administrative use only. It does not come into our data download. So if there's any clarifying information that you would like to include here, you're welcome to do so. Just be aware that it wouldn't be part of the analysis for the federal reporting. A lot of information on the form, so I'll stop and take some questions.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Elaine Bradley with HFA. I have a question in regards to the training. For HFA, there are 2 core classes or trainings that we must have. I'm sure of which training that you're speaking of, because if we can only put one date in there, how do you want us to do that?
Thanks, Elaine. Let me ask you a quick question. For both of those trainings, are they both required to be able to serve families?
Yes,
Be able
we
to
do the stopgap, but however, yes, we must have both of those done.
Okay.
Talking about as if they hold both roles of assessment worker as well as home visitor.
Right.
Okay. So do you have any insight into if they're holding both roles? Cynthia, from your HFA expertise, would it make sense to do that last date? So date on which they will have completed both.
You know, it depends on what it is that they're hoping to get from this information. I'm still unclear, really, in terms of HRSA's. We understand, well, DHHS might want it, but I'm not sure what the information is for.
Good question. This element is not part of the HRSA reporting. This would be utilized to us in see caseload would look like for sites that have new incoming staff and are yet taking on a full caseload at that time.
Okay, looking at it to think about caseloads, then it would be the home visiting training, I think, unless other people have other thoughts that are on the call, but it seems like it's the home visiting training that would allow them to have a caseload.
Okay, so like support worker versus family assessment.
So that goes back to that original question I asked in the chat box. If you're using this to determine caseload, then I'm thinking you probably want the stopgap training date. Because those just
Okay. I'd like to continue this dialogue. I think that what we are aiming to get at is the date that they would be able to start seeing the families.
Mm-hmm.
Define it that way, and we can continue this dialogue and let everybody know if there are any changes to that. I have a feeling, just to link this idea in, we have worked rather rapidly to help implement this data collection process. It came rather quickly down through HRSA, and we realized that there are very many unique scenarios for all of the staff and for the different LAAs. We also realized that HRSA itself is still getting its footing in how it would like to collect and utilize this data. So through this initial process this month, we would really welcome any feedback that anybody has, questions, concerns, unique scenarios that are, giving some trouble in trying to fit those scenarios into these forms, so that through this process we can address any of these different types of things that come up and also provide any information LAAs if there are changes and adjustments through HRSA. So I said through this first month here, we will all be adapting a little bit. Questions about this FTE breakdown? Then what we do is talk about saving a record and continuing on. I'm going to mention this bottom area here that says form status, and it says complete. What this does, if you remember to that grid and each of the little circles for the forms were clear, this will control the color of the circles, which will make sense in just a moment when we head back there. So what I'm going to do is we're going to save this record. RedCap will not save data if you navigate away from the page without clicking a save button. So if the back arrow or the keystroke, RedCap will not save the data that you had entered into the form. It is very friendly, though, and will let you save a form that is incomplete or lacks all of the data elements. It'll give you a warning, but it will let you do that. So we have options here. RedCap presents them up at the top of the screen in the right, and it also presents these options at the bottom of the form. So there's plenty of places to save. And when you click on either of these, you can save and continue entering data, or save record and exit the area. When I'm on the save record, it's letting me know there is some information missing. This missing information were the items that had the red text that said must provide value. It's okay to navigate away from here at this point in time. It's not going to stop you. You can say, okay, leave the record. I get it. My data is not all in there, and I will be returning later to enter the rest. We're going to do that today. We're going to ignore and leave the record. And we're into this, what is called the event grid. You can see that now that I have started entering in some information to the new hire form, my white circle has changed to a red circle. So I'll move up to this little legend here and talk the colors briefly. A white circle or gray, depending on your screen, means that nothing has ever been entered into that form. As soon as you enter one piece of data, it will turn red for you to show that the form is in process. Red, yellow, green is completely dependent upon that last question in the form. It's actually just an administrative feature here. If you have a process within your program where somebody would like to enter data and you would like to know if that data has been verified by a second individual, or you would just like to keep track of your own data entry, you're welcome to use the colors and to change it to complete. However, HI will not be so concerned with the status of the color of the circle. Once the form is in the entry process, we will consider it ready to be used in data analysis. So you're responsible to worry about the color that is here. You don't need to worry about that last question. If that is something you would like to utilize, you're welcome to touch base with us, and we'll walk you through how that gets used. We started entering data into a form. Lynn touched on this earlier. You're able to go back to that form at any point in time, so we can return to this new hire form now, and we can enter the training completion date if that was not known earlier, and we can make a correction if there was any error in the data that went into this form. Now, the second feature on this left called the record status dashboard, and what it does is it lists, it's similar to the event grid, but it lists all of the staff IDs. I had previously entered myself in here, Carrie Soroka, and given a little bit of data so we can see it in the grid. And you can also see the demo account that we just created today. For the Carrie Soroka record, I have a new hire, and I also have a staff update and change of status form. I'm going to open up that form and show you guys what this one looks like. The form, when it opens up, it asks for today's date. It's linked to the staff member that I clicked on. And 2 questions. Is the form being completed to document an official change in role, FTE allocation, or MHVI funding status? Or are you completing this form because it is documenting exit from employment? If you select the exit from employment, open up the end date, and you put in their end date, which could be in the future if you know it in advance, and then you save the record and exit. If you're doing a change in the role or the funding or the FTE, it's going to open up our set of FTE questions again. And as Lynn and I had been discussing earlier, we are updating the individual elements of data. We're actually updating the entire form. So we would like a whole new form that shows us a snapshot of what changed, what the new role will be, or what the new allocations are. So an example of this is if I have a staff who was perhaps working in 2 roles, they have a full FTE that was evenly divided, half a visitor and half a supervisor. And if the individual transitions into a supervisory role for the full FTE, at that point in time, you would open up a new staff update and change of status form. Not update the previous information in the system. We would complete a form. And in that new form, you enter the full FTE and then again repeat the process of indicating what role or roles they're in and what FTE breakdown is. An instance where you might find yourself utilizing the staff update and change of status form would be if there is a change in the MICV or MHVI funding and how that is applied to either one staff or all. You would come and open a new form and then complete the form based on what the new role or the new funding change will be. The thing that happens sometimes is we're moving through a form and in error click on something that opens up a set of questions. So in this case, I've actually opened up all of the questions on the form. If I did not want to select this first option to document official change in role, I change this by clicking the reset button. It's a small little word right over here on the right. And it will erase the answer. It will close the associated questions. It will also delete any data that is in those associated questions, so you don't have to delete it all yourself. But it could be a sad occurrence if you did not intend to close it. You'll find yourself reopening it and re-entering that data. Okay. RedCap gives you many warnings about saving data, but as I mentioned, it's important to manually click the Save Record and close. So at this point, I'm going to wrap up this online demo of the RedCap system and how this data goes into the online system. I know that often questions arise when you're able to actively try your hand and play around in it. Does anybody have any initial questions? Okay. So to the PowerPoint. We have a tool available to assist you. This is a worksheet for reporting the staff FTE. It's not a required element. If you like some questions to assist you in completing out that matrix of questions with the FTE, please let Brenda know and she'll be happy to share this tool with you at any time. All right, everybody back in the RedCap presentation with us?
Yes.
Thank you, Thea. Awesome. So I have through our walkthrough. So here's a review of the data. That is a process that will be happening ongoing. MPI and MDHHS will both be reviewing the data that is entered into RedCap. So here is an overview of the items that we will be reviewing and looking for. Seeing your incomplete data, so making sure that there's a new hire form for each of the staff. Also, update forms that indicate an exit if there are any staff that have exited. Those will be important elements to ensure that we're accurately capturing the staff that are engaged at a particular point in time. So it is important to include both the FTE and the funding split for each role. So if you're finding it challenging to fit some of the unique staff scenarios into this form, it will be important to touch base and we can offer some assistance in completing those forms. We'll be looking to ensure that the data in RedCap is in alignment with previous submissions and the contracts. LAs are responsible for reviewing the data that is in RedCap each month and making sure that it's up to date and accurate, getting in any additional forms or missing data elements prior to the 5th business day of each month. Support this process by setting rectification questions to help complete information that might be absent, and we will be working that in a monthly basis if needed. As we've mentioned, this is now a dynamic ongoing data entry. There may not be a need to be updating your system monthly. You will get your username and password. You can also manage your account profile there. And these are some items we talked about as we loaded up the demo. So to help, you can MPHI, MHVI staff for questions regarding data entry, quality assurance, and a data export. Those are some of those neat features that are in there that we'd be happy to help you out with. You can reach Brenda or myself, and my contact information is here as well.
Also on the last slide.
So to Brenda, and she's going to talk about our next steps and what's required here in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, so next steps, again, as Carrie said, this is a pretty fast turnaround, and we're also kind of learning as we go, as you do. So if you have any questions at any point, you can contact Carrie or myself, and we can help you with that. Our contact information, our complete contact information will be on the last slide. But in terms of upcoming due dates, we're asking for the initial data entry to be completed by close of business on the 19th. This will include any staff who were employed in fiscal year 16, so October 1st onward. If they worked one or more days, we need you to create a record in there for you. And there are a couple bullets there on special situations. If the hire date's not known, there's a specific date on the slide that you can enter. If their original role is not known, you can speak to what it was as of October 1st, 2016. You would also complete a staff update and change of status form for all events that have occurred in fiscal year 16, so since October 1st. You're also going to enter staff who began employment in fiscal year 16. That will probably be a little bit easier. You won't have to think back quite so far. But again, for them, you will be completing the new hire staff form and then any update and change of status forms if they had any events since they were hired. Once your information is entered, as of the end of the day on the 19th, Carrie's going to download it, comb through it, and if we have initial questions, we'll be contacting you individually by site with questions, and we will get those questions to you by the 22nd, and we're asking that you have the responses to those questions back to us by the 29th. And again, we know that this is a very tight turnaround, so if you are have any struggles at any point, please let Carrie and I know, and we may be able to kind of brainstorm a way to get a quicker workaround for this particular month because it is happening so quickly. Ongoing data entry after this, just to touch back on this, RedCap does have dynamic data entry. So once you do that initial upload of all the staff this month, you'll only be entering data when there are events to document. And as Carrie said, you can get any time throughout the month. Just remember to save your forms and just make sure that you have all those changes entered by the 5th business day of the next month. You want to just make sure that you have all your staff documented, all your updates are documented, you're including the training completion dates, and we'll get some clarity on that initial HFA question that was asked today. Contact us at MPHI for any help that you need with RedCap, or again, any questions that you have about temporary unique scenarios, because we know that data or allocations and how they're handled might vary by agency. So again, we are in a learning curve as well, and so is the federal level and the state level. So we appreciate all of your feedback and questions as we get this started and going, because that will help us to fine-tune it and make it as easy for you as well as useful for the data reporting needs. Any questions at this point?
Will we be the slide, the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes. You get a copy of the slides. Carrie is also going to go through and do screenshots so that you will have kind of a guide to help you the first time that you're doing this, which are basically the steps that she walked through today as well.
Thank you.
Carrie in the UP?
Yes.
How soon are we going to get our login so we can get started on this? The next 2 weeks are pretty intense with quarterly reports due, CQI meeting in Saginaw, and some other stuff going on. The sooner we log in, the better.
Is setting those up today. So she'll get yours out to you as quickly as she can today.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, as I said before, if you have any questions on any of this, how you go about it, if you're encountering barriers with RedCap or with pulling the information together, just let Carrie and I know, and we will try to figure out a way to help you get the information that is being asked for this month. And thank you all for your patience today. I know that WebEx has had some hiccups. And I have not been able to see the chat box for a while. So if you had questions you entered into the chat box, please send to me via email, and I will send responses to all the questions that we get out to everyone along with the slides. And I apologize so much for the bumps that we've had with WebEx today. I'm not quite certain where the issue lies, but we certainly appreciate your patience. If there aren't any, additional questions right now, I would say have a lovely day. And Carrie will get the logins to you as soon as possible. I'll be sending out the slides, the recording, and the follow-up information by the end of the day tomorrow.
Thank you, ladies.